Chair now recognize Mr. Burchett from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe you're from Kentucky, neighboring state. Ms. Wojcicki, did I get that right? Close?
Very close.
All right. Well, nobody gets Burchett right, so don't feel like the Lone Ranger up here. Are you aware that in 2015, 23andMe received funds from a variety of investors, including Woozy Healthcare Ventures?
I am aware of that.
Okay. And according to 23andMe, this partnership has dissolved. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you know how much Woozy Healthcare Ventures invested in your company in 2015?
They invested $10 million out of a $115 million round.
Okay. Are you aware that at that time Woozy Healthcare Ventures had direct ties to the CCP and the Chinese People's Liberation Army?
We were not aware.
Can you explain how the partnership between Woozy Healthcare Ventures and 23andMe was dissolved?
I believe that they sold their shares. It was just an investment.
Well, investors, though, in a corporation do have votes on things that occur, though.
They had no control.
They just gave y'all $10 million with no strings attached.
There was no control.
They just gave y'all $10 million with no strings attached. That's a yes or no.
They were just an investor. No strings.
Okay. I have a bill, H.R. 2286. It's the American Genetic Privacy Act of 2025, and it was actually put forth last year, and your all's lobbyists do an excellent job, and this Congress, as Congresses in the past, have very little guts to do what I feel like is the right thing, because it takes a great deal of trust for Americans to share their sensitive genetic information with DNA testing companies, and selling this information to companies with direct links to malicious foreign actors, I feel like, is a huge violation of trust. DNA testing companies must keep Americans' genetic information private so it isn't used against us by the Chinese Communist Party or any other nefarious characters. The bill that I put forth would prohibit commercial DNA testing services from disclosing this genetic information of the United States nationals to the CCP or entities affiliated with it. And if we had passed this, and it doesn't come through this committee, it's another committee, but if we had passed that, we'd be probably, the questions be a little different up here. I was made aware of a situation where supposedly the Chinese could say they collected this data that was sold to them on the market, and they could possibly create, they would do a genome, which I understand is a study of genetic information, and develop a pattern. And they could possibly develop diseases or something, a bug along that line that could, say, stop American women at childbearing ages from bearing children. And this was discussed up here, yet we have not brought forth any legislation to stop that, and that was over a year ago under a previous administration. To me, that just shows the gutless nature of Congress and of us and our greed and the power of the K Street lobbyist. I would hope that this body and the media would bring attention to this problem. To me, this is a serious breach of, it's a serious breach of ethics, but our national security, and it should go past parties and pointing fingers. We just need to get some legislation filed, and we need to enforce it. It's worthless when we pass these worthless bills, these so-called studies, and then what happens is we get a good piece of legislation. You got a committee that goes forth with the legislation. You have a well-intended congressperson, yet a staff member their ear is the lobbyists have their ear, and they stop that legislation for whatever reason. They say, oh, we want you to do something, but we need to do a study. Well, folks, if you've ever seen the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, where at the end there's a warehouse full of this stuff, of things that we're supposed to be looking at, that is what I believe these studies go to. Is there some worthless warehouse, and we go home and we tell everybody, look what we did, and we don't do a dadgum thing up here. We've got to get past the greed and the gutless nature of this thing. We need to take our dadgum country back, and both parties ought to be ashamed. Mr. Chairman, I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman yield.